Bong loads and bullshit. We're back. It was a week hiatus because I had a whole bunch of bullshit going on, and so did Dig. Everything's better now. We're here. It's an Oklahoma Cannabis podcast. Dig is wielding a megaphone. So everybody say hello to Uncle Dig at the Backseat Chronicles.
Hello, I'm Uncle Dig.
Biden basically made weed legal, if y'all can believe that. Weed is legal now. Weed is legal.
I don't know if I agree with that, but we'll get into that in a minute. We're gonna walk the fine line between cannabis content and political here, and we're gonna do a fine job of it. But first, let's start with the usual shit. The stuff every content creator starts with, the whining for socials. You can find Uncle Dig and his podcast, The Backseat Chronicles, at his Insta, at Uncle Dig, or you can search The Backseat Chronicles on Google. You find it in all kinds of places, including Audible. Bong Loads and BS. This podcast can be found at Bong Loads and BS on Insta, at Bong Loads and BS on Facebook. We don't have a custom URL on YouTube yet because the YouTube channel doesn't do any fucking numbers. If you're listening, you know where to find us. Follow us. I post pictures from the tent.
You should also tell your friends about us. If you enjoy us and are only a little embarrassed that you do, you should share your shame with a friend, and it will lessen that shameful feeling.
That's how I got over my dick rash.
Yeah, dick rash.
That's our guest for the day. How's the garden going, Uncle Dig?
It's going really good. I guess I should start. I harvested some of the fire of Maroof. I didn't get very much off of one of the plants. Bugs pretty much ate it, so I only got 20 grams off of that big outdoor plant, but it's very good. And then I've still got one outdoor photo period still going. The other fire of Maroof is taking its time, and it looks like I'm going to get a slightly bigger harvest from that, I hope. But it's pushing. It's probably going to go. I'm waiting for it to finish. I'm not feeding it. I'm just waiting for it to start going amber. And I hope I'll be able to chop it in the next week. I don't even know if it's an I think. It's more of an I hope. I hope to be able to harvest it within the next week. But we've got some rain coming. At the end of the month, so I'll be chopping it before that regardless. Even if it wants to go longer, I won't let it, because if it gets rained on for a couple days, especially with those big thick buds, I'll probably mold out. So I'm just gonna cut it before the rain if it doesn't finish. So that's cool.
Immediate question, if that.
Yeah.
Oh, go ahead.
Oh yeah, do you want to go talk? Ask me the question.
If you are close, if you're not so close to chopping, let's say you're in flower, but it's still early, and you get hammered by some rain, how do you protect against that? Or do you just hope for no mold? Or is it like, okay, the sun will dry it out before it has to go into curing?
It could be a mixture of those things.
Okay.
I don't like covering my plants.
Okay.
I had a bad experience with it that was completely my fault, but I just never did it again. I hung some blue tarps over my plants when a heavy rain was coming through, and blue tarp bits got in my weed.
Ooh.
So that wasn't fun. Anyway, so that was fun to pick
Terps,
out
bro.
all of that. Yeah. Yeah. Terps, bro. Plastic blue terps, the bluest terps of all. But yeah, maybe that's why I liked that first Thin Mint so much, is all the blue terps it had in it. But anyway, So, I mean, I know there's better ways to cover plants, but I was a newbie and this was years ago. So like, be nice to your friend. But, I generally don't like to cover them. If it's going to be a heavy sustained rain and you're in mid flower, they might weather through it. If you're in late flower and you're kind of waiting for them to finish, it's better to cut your losses, unless it's going to rain for one day and then the forecast says it's going to be 80 degrees the next day. You might not have anything to worry about. It might be wet for a day, then the sun will completely dry it out, and there won't be any moisture left in the nugs by the end of that second day, and you won't have mold. So that can happen too. But there are some strains where if you like look at them wrong, they get covered in mold, and then other strains that like you can rub poop on them. And they you could accidentally dump like cow manure on some of the lower buds and they still won't mold out. You know, there's certain certain strains certain cultivars, my bad. Certain cultivars are better at handling mold than others. And some of them like just do not mold unless they get caterpillars or something like that. They won't just get an outbreak of powdery mildew unless you throw them out there in 60 degrees and 90% humidity for weeks, and then they'll get it because everything will, But
so basically Oklahoma in the fall.
Right. And honestly, usually Oregon is very rainy and wet right now. And I would be looking at emergency pulling these plants, but it's been sunny during the day and warm. It's been cold at night, but it's been sunny and warm during the day. So the plants have just been bulking. They just keep bulking. And I think the plants would have finished sooner if it had been rainy. They would have been done quicker, but they're just adding weight, I guess. It's really interesting to watch.
Now, the next question, and this is kind of totally off tracking. I wonder if there's another commercial crop that is so fucking weird and please don't get too much rain on me as cannabis. And it's good if you grow it outside, but don't let it get too wet and so on.
Well, I think it depends. Well, I mean, don't other fibrous crops, they don't want mold in I know, in a lot of industrial stuff, right?
Oh, I don't know. I could totally be talking on my ass.
No, I think there are some other. I mean, there's definitely moisture parameters for harvesting certain stuff. You don't want, and you got to keep grain dry as fuck. That's why they keep it in those silos. No, I think there's a lot of crops like that. I mean, late. I would assume. Now I'm making an assumption here, but I would assume that real heavy rain on a lot of crops that produce fruit can cause some problems. I know that if I get too much rain late in the summer, which very rarely happens here, but if I get too much moisture late in the summer, some of my jalapenos will burst. The water will make them crack and
that sucks.
Striations and stuff. So heavy moisture can affect other crops too. I think we just talk about it more in cannabis because collectively we still don't all know the best way of handling it. And there's so many different cultivars out there that respond differently. I think one might more accurately say that there aren't as many commercial crops that are as diverse as cannabis is. I mean, you've got I say that, but I mean, how many kinds of tomatoes are there? I mean, there's two main types of tomatoes, right? There's determinate tomatoes and indeterminate tomatoes, right? And what that means is, I'll explain it to you. So basically, a determinate tomato is like an autoflower in cannabis. It gets to a certain size and then it fruits and then it stops and it's that size. Okay. So it'll grow to 2 feet or 3 feet or whatever it gets to. An indeterminate tomato will grow as long as it's hot enough for it to grow.
Oh, shit.
So, when you see people hanging out with their 8-foot tall tomato plants, those are indeterminate tomatoes. They're indeterminate.
These autos are photos, bro. That's funny as fuck.
But kinda. I mean, really, when you get right down to it, one has a genetically predetermined size and timeline, and one will just keep going as long as you keep it going, and you select based on what your garden needs are, right? So if I have a giant box and I'm just trying to max my production, indeterminate. But if I have a container garden, I want a determinate tomato.
Oh, okay. No, that makes sense. And that applies as well. All right.
So there's some advice from your non-heady garden from Uncle Dig about choosing the right tomato for your garden. Also, folks, for those of you in less than legal states who allegedly might like to cultivate, a lot of the things that cannabis needs, tomatoes need. So if you're going and shopping for your newts, just tell people you're growing tomatoes. Everyone always has.
Grow a couple. Yeah, they're basically your beard.
Tomatoes, pretty much. Yeah,
tomatoes are your weed beard. My garden, I don't have a lot to report. I'm glad we started with yours because you've actually got shit going on.
That wasn't it.
Oh, my bad. We got sidetracked. Hands up.
You're good. You're good. I've got 4 more plants, man.
Ooh, yeah.
So I remember I told you I was fucking around with a late season auto run. So I've got 2 outdoor big buds right now still going. And the other plants that I harvested were not enough to talk about. We're talking one I got 0.3 grams because off of one, and the other I got like a bowl out of because they flowered early and it was bad. But these two are going pretty good. One's flowering and one's just starting to flower. And I don't think they're going to yield much, but I think they'll each yield like probably like quarter, half an ounce, which is good smoking weed. And then the indoor auto, and this hot weather has helped the outdoor autos stretch a little bit more than I thought they were. They had the potential to be bigger, but the environment outdoors really isn't allowing them to. It's getting into the 40s at night, and they don't do their best growing when they get that cold at night. So they're struggling. They're trying to produce for me, but they're not doing great. I mean, they're doing fine. They're healthy. They're green. They don't have any deficiencies, but we're not maxing out the potential of the genetics for those big buds. Now,
you need to get. Oh, sorry. Those big fucking. I kind of mean this as a shitpost joke, but I also wonder if it would work. So when you go to a sporting event and you're a smoker, if you're at a cool place like the Field House in Indiana, whatever they call it now, with the smoking area outdoors, will have this massive fucking heater that heats up the whole area. Now it sucks every bit of moisture out of the air. You feel like a mummy the whole time, but you're warm while you're outside in the cold smoking. And I'm wondering if there is something like that in a situation like yours where you can immediately heat an area. I ate way too many edibles before the show and my mind is going a million directions is what this comes down to.
Well, cannabis is a high value crop, so it's worth expending a fair amount of energy to grow. But these auto flowers are little and they're not worth running a heater.
Touche.
They're just not. I've only got 2 out there. This is an experiment. Whenever I'm growing outdoors, I'm trying to max my yield for the amount of energy I'm getting. I'm not necessarily
grow at all cost.
Yeah, like I'm just trying to grow at all costs, basically. Yeah. And so I've got one out there. I've got those 2 out there. I was just seeing, I didn't think this would work at all. I thought by mid-October, it was going to be so cold that they weren't going to be able to veg or flower or anything. And I've been wrong because it's been 80 degrees. Now, when the rain comes, it's going to get interesting because by that time, one of them I think is going to be close to done. And then I'll only have one autoflower. And once you only have one autoflower, you can start doing really creative things like putting it on the porch at night so it doesn't get rained on and let it dry out, and then put it out in the rain during the day so it gets a little sun. You can see, because it's only 1 5-gallon pot. It's heavy, but it's not like that heavy. I can move that. So I'll move it like, every day for the last like month of its life. And I think that might stretch out the drying season or the growing season a little bit. I've heard of people pushing full-size photo periods at deep into November. But I've never heard of anyone doing it with autoflowers. It doesn't mean no one's done it. I haven't heard of it. And then in the tent behind me, I've got 2 Tangerine Dream autoflowers, and they're doing really well. And actually, if you guys peep my Instagram, you can see
Uncle Dig.
Yeah, you can see pictures of them. I post in my stories pretty frequently when I get in there and work with them too. Last night
Insta is actually worth following. He actually put shit up.
Yeah, like last night I did a thinning of the Tangerine Dreams, and I posted that in my stories. So I posted a picture of them before I thinned them out, and then I posted a picture of the trash can that I'd filled with their foliage, and then I posted a picture of them thinned out. And I'm not as heavy a defoliator as some. Some growers say I don't go heavy enough. I don't like doing it. I'm not a really heavy pruner. It took me a long time to get to where I'll even prune my roses enough. I'm just not a heavy, a naturally heavy pruner.
You like the leaves. I get it.
Yeah, dude, I do.
Well, that's good. I'm glad to hear because, I'm noticing an upward trend. Every time we talk, we had that bad week. There's even an episode titled about it. You had that bad week. I can't say we because I talked to you about it. And then things have just slowly been on the upturn. And that makes me very happy to hear, Dig. I like that.
Oh, yeah. I was able to – I thought I was going to lose all of that fire on my roof. Right. And I don't know if I told our audience, but I got a really good yield off the 2 CBD Dutch treats. I talked about it on the back. Oh, okay. Well, I'll go ahead and tell them now. They had a chance to check out the show, and I feel like if they were gonna They would have already. So I'll go ahead and tell them on this show. So I got over a pound on both those CBD plants. So that's pretty good. So I'm going to be covered in morning smoke probably for the rest of 2022, probably until the next outdoor growing season. I mean, honestly, so I do the math periodically, and I figure I go through about a little less than 4 pounds of weed a year.
That's what I was going to ask.
That's about everything. That's where I figure. When I first started growing, I was only going through about a pound and a half a year. So It's definitely escalated.
Well, between tolerance and access, it makes sense.
Yeah. And then, but I got, so you figure if about maybe only a fourth of that is CBD. So I'm good for CBD for a while. And
legit.
So like, I'll probably start maybe focusing more on growing the CBD outside and only doing a couple of the other cultivars, because the CBD seem to stand up to the
really
best this year.
Outside.
Well,
I see.
That's the the other plants loved the outside until the mites and everything came and ate them all. But
I see.
But the CBD, they didn't get eaten as fast. They seemed less. Like when they had the mites, they didn't have them as bad. It was wild.
My immediate thought is like scarecrow crop. You put one plant that they love off to the side.
Oh no! I've tried that. You end up accidentally bringing pest in if you have a plant that they really like.
Fair.
So like and I kind of do that with peppers, because the peppers tend to be just a little more attractive to aphids than the cannabis plants. And so what I'll do is I'll get my first aphids on my peppers. So I'll see them there first, and then I'll kill them on the peppers. And a lot of times they don't go for the cannabis because the peppers are there.
Okay. Right on.
But that's not always reliable, because you'll find in your garden, or at least I have, that the bugs seem to like the same flavors we do. So, if you've got, and maybe, I don't know, they have their preferences too, right? You'll have like a row of like four different plants. And like, for example, the mites completely destroyed my my Northern Lights. I got nothing off that plant. It died. It killed it. The plant right next to it, the Canatonic, produced 16.01 ounces, just over a pound, even after I cut a mite infestation out of it. But
How much might you have gotten
on that plant?
Yeah, on the one
I think I only lost a half pound.
Oh, okay. I didn't know if that's not bad. That's
Well, and see, it escalates. One of the things that saved me about these CBD plants is that they were so big. I got like a pound and a half off the CBD Dutch treat, but it was also almost 9 feet tall, Evan.
Oh, damn. Oh, that's fair.
It was so tall.
A big boy.
It was so big.
Big girl. Sorry.
Yeah. That would be tragic if I started breaking it apart. Like when I started smoking it and it was filled with seeds. It's not. I've already smoked some.
Touche.
And so, that's what's been going on in my garden. And then in the future, I've got a 4x4 in the garage. When it cools off a little bit, I'm going to start running that. I'll probably do an auto flower run of that, probably like 6 different auto flowers, just kind of fucking around. And then I have a 2x2. I'm probably going to set up right behind me next to this 2x2. It's the other one's bigger. It's like a 2.5. It's like a 2.5 by 2.5. And then my buddy's got clones of this Fire of the Roof that I just harvested.
Okay. So you're going to get that back.
I'm going to get that back, and I'm going to try to scrog it in a 2x2 space and see if I can pull like a respectable indoor harvest. Like I want to try to get like half a pound.
Hey, good shit.
I don't know if I can. I'd be happy with a quarter pound, but I want to try to get a half pound, because I've seen people pull like a pound out of a 2x2. And I don't think I can do that, but I would like to try to get a half pound. Well, I don't know how heavy this is going to yield indoors. So what's going on? This Fire of Maroof is a really, really, really good strain. It's like a nice heavy indica, and I harvested this early. So letting it go all the way indoors might do something different. I don't know, but it was really big buds, smells really good. Didn't quite develop that acrid, like dead body funk I was hoping for. But so it's not quite the Afghan I was looking for. But it happened to be my huckleberry and the indica dude, and it's good for my nerve pain.
Oh, good.
So so it's actually turned out to be a really good medicinal strain, even though I was just looking for some night bud. It's turned out that this might be, you know how I've told people like I've been growing stuff for years and I never found anything that was that like I'm like I love the weed I've grown. I love smoking it, but I wasn't like I have to grow this again, except for the, you know, a few of them. Like I've grown the CBD Dutch Treat as long as you've known me.
Replicate into eternity.
Dude, that's what I'm talking about. Who is that chick they took the pap smear cells from? And she's like, oh, Henrietta Lacks.
Henrietta Lacks. Know about that or that person. I have fucking no idea on that shit.
I have to look this up. It's going to drive me crazy.
You might not hear this on the show because we're a half hour in, but please continue.
Henrietta Lacks was, Henrietta Lacks. Henrietta Lacks was an African-American woman whose cancer cells are the source of the HeLa line, the first immortalized human cell line, and one of the most important cell lines in medical research. Her cancer cells are immortal. Anyway, sorry.
Okay. No, you're good.
Yeah. So that's interesting.
That's cool. No, that's cool as shit to have a plant that does that. That's kind of what I'm doing with this onion.
Yeah, if you clone it,
helping it do.
Yeah. Well, and because once you clone it, it's the same plant genetically.
Right. And with Steve, like I get his social same thing. You can follow his, and he's got the same plant growing, and he's got a mother of it, and he keeps taking from it, and like his are fucking thriving and vibrant and doing so good, and it makes me happy for mine because mine is, you know, it's not in bad conditions, but I haven't optimized its environment yet, and it's still green and pretty, so it makes me think I just got a good ass resilient plant from him, and I'm hoping that if we do like it, I would like to take cuttings from it because it seems like the strain's going to match up. And my tint update won't be nearly so as involved as Diggs because it's mostly more of the same for me. Money as ever in the Babs Labs is tight enough that whenever I get the tint set up, I want to get everything all at once. So we're looking to get like the little heater before it gets cold next week and get a bulb, the proper vegging bulb for our HPS setup so we can put that shit up, ballast it up, and do all that. But I will say, and I went to this a minute ago, the plant is doing good. Every time I go out there, I'm logging temps and shit now. It's fucking, it seems greener and prettier and taller. Like it is really doing well, even though the environment's like halfway to where it needs to be. So that's kind of the whole update. I'm pretty happy with how it's going. I will post a picture up with, you know, this episode. Now on the other end, we have the What We're Smoking. You know, Dig and I have both been hitting the same thing for a few weeks. So Dig, what are you hitting on?
Right now I am hitting, God, I should know this. This is, I have the thing over here. I just had to take my headphones off. I don't remember, but I have the label.
You're fine. I don't have a harmonica or anything to pull out. So Dig's off singing. I just have to sit here and talk. I can't, but if Dig played the harmonica, it would just cut out. He's not going to hear this till the show comes on. Oh, here he is. Here he is.
It was hiding in my vape bag, so I couldn't see it. It was like it had fallen right in there. So this is, okay. So it doesn't.
That's good.
Anyway,
you're hitting a vape.
I'm hitting a 91% distillate vape from Buddy's Cannabis, but it doesn't have what it actually is on here. Let me think for a second. I'll tell you what it is.
If it's distillate, it doesn't matter.
Well, this is terps. It has like 4% terps. I don't know what the fuck they did. Tastes like weed. I like
Probably
it.
Reintroduced. That's cool.
I don't know. It's cool. Well, there's a way that they can make distillate now using a cooling tower. We've talked about this before.
Oh, yeah.
Instead of the bulb where it retains more of the terps than it used to.
That's what's up.
Because it doesn't burn. Yeah. But like I had an opportunity and I was working on it with No Bad Days, with a farm called No Bad Days Ranch out there in Washington. I went out there and toured just a buddy of mine as a partial owner of it. So we were out there having a good time. And I was hoping to get to interview their extract scientist, but I think my my battle vest might have been too loud and I might have pissed someone off. So, but that's
happens
fine.
when you live that life.
That's okay though. You know, I
We'll
had a
piss
great
some
time
more people
out
off when we go into the main meet. Sorry.
Oh no, yeah, and I'm hoping that he'll change his mind because I really jived with the guy. But at the end of the day, it's fine. I don't behest anyone for disagreeing with the ridiculous shit I wear. That's fine.
Touche. I am on my usual shit. I've got some weed. I've not been smoking a lot recently besides these nasty things. Don't do that. I have been eating some edibles. The jacked up white chocolate and peanut butter extreme bar. Now, I'm a big proponent of the jacked up bar. I'm a big fan of it. I evangelize that shit, even though it's just a distillate dip chocolate bar. Like in terms of fucking cost per milligram and shit, because edibles are expensive. This is one of the best. And you can even get into the jacked up extreme, and that's probably the best cost per milligram in the market. But at the risk of sounding like an asshole who tells a business how to do business, I'm going to bring something up here. This is important to me. Anytime I go to buy these, and I go to one specific place in Lawton to buy them because they're cheap there, Spark. Anytime I go to Spark, I go there and I go, hey, you all got jacked up bars? And they say, yes, we have them. And I say, do you have milk chocolate? And they say, no, but we do have fucking strawberry margarita. Actually, strawberry wouldn't be bad. Lime margarita butthole and fucking Oreo shitbag and all of these dumbass lame flavors that they taste gross. I mean, I know my candy. Look at my fucking teeth. I know my candy. Anytime I go in there, the only bar that is sold out is that motherfucking jacked up bar, milk chocolate. So I'm going to say something, jacked up. If you were to say up the production of the milk chocolate bar and lower the production of, say, the lime and salt flavored shitbag, you could probably sell a lot more because more people would buy them. Now, I will buy these flavors. I'll buy these. I'll do it because I like to get high, but I fucking hate white chocolate and I hate peanut butter. And this was still the most appealing goddamn flavor to me. I'm just going to point that out. I don't even mean to sound angry. I'm getting all red, but it's annoying. Give me a jacked up milk chocolate, please. And that's all I had to say. Thank you. Do we have time for Know Your Terps? We don't need to do this every single week, but people seem to like the Terp info. So let's talk a minute about Asamine. This you would consider a secondary terp. It is. It's not often found in the top three. It's a terp that's found in peppermint. It's a terp that smells like peppermint, rather. It's found in mint, orchids, and parsley. I like this one because, Dig, I believe you remember you bringing up Dutch Treat before. It's found in Dutch Treat and Straight Amnesia, which I would assume applies to that Amnesia Haze, which I know you're a fan of. And it's got a floral nose.
Yeah, that's funny. That's funny. That's two strains I grow that have that in there. That's cool. Well, I do gravitate towards smoking both of those things in the morning, so it makes sense that it's one of the more anti-inflammatory terps.
So that is your terp, Asamine.
But let's go ahead and move on to let's talk about how Joe Biden, Joseph Robinette Biden, Dark Brandon himself, has legalized cannabis.
The problem is fixed and everything is better.
He fixed it. Dark Brandon has crushed the horrible right-wing horde that wants to take your weed with his iron fist and made everything right. Right? We can grow weed at home in Alabama now, right?
Right. Texas?
Yeah.
You can smoke a blunt on the courthouse steps in Texas and blow it a cop's face.
You can pee on
no problem.
Alamo and rub your blunt out on it, and you're only going to jail for the peeing.
That's a very good... No. Yeah, of course, you know that's not actually what happened. And you know that the result from pretty much everybody has been lukewarm. And that we're not going to get into part of the political side of this, but that's one thing I will say about the difference between Democrats and Republicans. Democrats will real quick say, hey, this sucks. You did wrong if a Democrat does something wrong. It's an admirable trait. That said, it's one of those things. And Dig, if you... I feel like you should start with opening comment because I feel like your take's going to be a little more extreme for mine, and then I can come in with the fucking bastard centrist view. Would you like to go first?
About Joe Biden and his okay, so for those people, Joe Biden just released the mildest of federal cannabis prisoners. He pardoned people who were in federal custody or who are convicted on federal charges for simple possession. That is it.
Right. Around 6,500 people.
Which is not nothing. It's not nothing. It's not. He did help some people. People are going to be surprised by this because usually I'm so contrarian but to me, him actually doing this, is it effective drug policy reform? No. Did he legalize cannabis? No. Why am I celebrating? Well, two things. Two very important things that this tells me. Both, because remember, Joe Biden isn't a progressive. He's not an anarchist. He's not a communist. He's not a far left radical. He is a center left or center right, even
by world standard for sure.
Right. But what this tells me is that cannabis legalization and cannabis reform is so politically demanded in the United States that he thinks, and the Democratic Party thinks, and the establishment thinks that this is necessary for the Democrats to carry the midterms, for them to do something about cannabis.
Yep.
And what that means is that I was right. And something you need to know about me is when I'm right, which is very often, most of the time I'm right. And when I'm right, it makes me so happy, happy. I love being right. And I've been right. I tell everybody.
White men approaching middle age.
Yeah, I'm getting that self-holier than thou white perfection thing going on. I'm sorry.
Me too, buddy.
But seriously, when the Democrats, I always said, when the Democrats embrace this, it'll result in a brief wave of support. And if they time it right, it can become a winning election issue and something they can stand for instead of just kind of standing for not much. I mean,
right.
What do they normally stand for? The status quo? And the Republicans, like, I don't know, they want some weird
take a step
confederacy
back.
Or some shit. I don't know what they want, some wild shit. So like, that's not so. But for the longest time, like, the Democrats have been like, well, we can keep it the same or they can make it worse. And we're like, well, this is better than what they want. But now they're like, we might make weed a thing that and then that's progress. And I think that'll loop a lot of progressives in who, frankly, have lost interest in the Democratic Party to a large extent because they can't do actual police reform because everyone in the center will just abandon them. They're like, we like the blue line, and then they'll just go over to the Republicans. But if they just take more teeth out of the police, right? Like the police can't arrest you for weed. That's basically the radical point, right? So this is a step in the right direction, and it fills my black heart with just a little bit of hope. So that's exciting.
I figured you were going to come in like a lot of people that I hear with something similar to your political innings and say, yeah, it's just it's a what's the word I'm looking for?
It's not enough. Of course it's token. Of course.
Right.
Of course. But
it's something.
It is a step in the right direction. This man has been cucked to cops since the Reagan administration.
Drug reform laws, buddy. Yeah.
And then all of a sudden he's going to change. This is for Joe Biden. He might as well have picked up marks for the first time.
Yeah. It's a step towards an inevitable goal of it being more accessible to everybody. But, and this is where the other part comes in. The 6,500 people is one part. And that is in terms of if you think that politics are there to make people's lives better and to maybe even increase joy from time to time, 6,500 getting kicked out of jail and all their family members. And that's a lot of lives being improved just by the numbers, just bulk fucking happiness. However you measure that. That's
able to get a job, able to get a job. All of a sudden you can get a job at like a really good company because you don't have a federal cannabis conviction.
Correct. But now beyond that, the real question is, what does it look like? Because Biden also said he was going to recommend to the FDA that they change the scheduling. Right now, of course, cannabis is Schedule 1, and everybody's heard that. This is the most played out trope because it's true. People say it because it's true, but they say it over and over. It's on the same scale as heroin. No medicinal value, quote, which even heroin has medicinal value. But, I'm not saying let's get some medicinal heroin out here at all. What I'm saying is it obviously needs to be descheduled. But I looked into this because I was worried. I'm in a medical system that I love. For all its flaws, I fucking love the Oklahoma medical system for a lot of reasons. So if the FDA starts fucking with weed, cannabis, and moving it down the schedule, that can fuck with how Oklahoma is allowed to allow me to have weed. I kind of, that's the worst sentence I've ever said, but you see what I mean.
Yeah. So I would. It depends, right?
Okay.
So if he okay, so there's two ways he can go about this, two main ways. Mm-hmm. And there's one I support and one I don't, right? And so the first one, and let's be real, Evan, you're already assuming he's going to do this, is to reschedule it at a lower schedule level.
Move it down to like 2
or 3 or 5 even, right?
I'm into 5.
Like, fuck 5. Fuck
no,
3.
Dude.
Fuck 2, fuck 1, no. And this is what he needs to do. And this is what he's been saying. What's interesting to me, he's not using rescheduling language. He's using the term deschedule, which means remove it off the schedule of federal substances entirely, which is what I advocate. Because then, of course, the states have to regulate it if they want it regulated at all.
Or it's going to be sold at gas stations.
Oh,
over the counter.
Yes, fucking sir. And you know what else? If it's descheduled and the states don't compete and adequately make, that means that you can fucking go sell it at the farmer's fucking market unless Oklahoma says you can't. Dude, I think that's what they should do. And I like it because it creates chaos in states that weren't willing to regulate cannabis. And I love it when people pay for their mistakes. Like it's like when someone shoots themselves in the hand doing something unsafe with a gun
to avoid conscription in Russia or to get pain pills.
Well, actually, that's not what I'm talking about. I was more just doing stupid shit with a gun.
Asshole.
Yeah, no. Honestly, those two are perfectly good reasons to maim yourself.
I've known somebody who shot themselves for pain pills. Anybody who's done that I will tell you immediately, that's not a junkie having a bad time. That's a piece of shit person. I will tell you that with conviction. Please continue.
I have no judgment there, and I encourage all of you brave Russian young men to cut your pinky finger off to avoid.
I'm talking about the pain pill thing. Yeah. If you're avoiding conscription, cut your foot off, please.
I feel like if you live in Russia and you're cutting your finger off, you're going to want pain pills too. So.
Okay, so think what you want about Joe Biden. I'm your typical fucking Democrat voter. You know, I'm net negative with him, but he's there, so whatever.
I am not your typical Democrat voter. Don't judge Democrats by me. I am a raving anarchist lunatic.
I mean, I'm even too far left for a lot of people who can't stand me, and I'm way more right than you. But that said,
yes,
this is in the end an elderly man who has repeatedly shown compassion for people in fucked up situations. Now, say what you want about the drug laws that he had a part in the 90s, but this is a man who had a son who suffered from drug addiction, very famously. A guy who's dragged through the mud daily for his shit. And I'm not into that story. I don't buy into the conspiracy theories about it, but the man was addicted to crack or whatever. So almost any elderly person I know that has grappled with a child that's had a severe drug addiction ain't fucking with weed. I've got alcoholics and drug addicts in my family, and it is because of them that a lot of like the patriarch and matriarch figures in my family won't fucking even think about weed because they've seen other drugs and they link it together. So for a dude who's been in that position to do that, I think is, you know, from a personal perspective, pretty admirable to be able to do that. I would like to talk a little bit about the scheduling before we get off the air, if that's okay.
Okay.
Please continue. I didn't mean to cut you off. I'm gonna cut that in.
No, honestly, I just think I think descheduling it completely would be better for people short term. I think it would immediately make it safer. I think it would cause a lot of problems in the courts, and I think that's a good thing.
Yes.
And I think also that once it's descheduled, we should really look at some of these historical figures and recent figures. For example, some of the police unions and stuff who have known for a long time that this was fine and it wasn't a big deal, and they've hurt people over it anyway, and maybe prosecute and imprison some of these police chiefs and stuff, and take back like basically defund the police through cannabis legalization and prosecuting them as criminals against humanity for what they did to people over a plant.
I'm going to leave that on the air. I will not cut that this time per, I think, but I just want to say I don't necessarily think I want to go that far with it. Please continue. Sorry.
Well, I mean, no, so, and I don't either. I'm all for, prison abolition and stuff. But if we're going to have a carceral state and we're going to have prisons, violent thugs who steal people's money because they grow a plant are not constructive members of society, and by their own logic should be removed from it.
I don't disagree. It's an ideal outcome. It's just one of those things that, like, I'm like realistic in my hopes, and it's never going to happen.
Not with an attitude like that, sir.
That's fair. That's fair. I'm one of those people holding it back with my mental shackles. Now, back to the point of chaos. I think this is an area where we can have constructive disagreement. I don't necessarily want to see chaos. I'm not necessarily like, haha, government, fuck you. Now you're getting what's yours. Because whatever. In the end, I just want government to make my life better, make access to things easier, and so on. But I do think where our opinions dovetail is that the government has created this chaos. And this is the best way for the government now to bring that chaos in line in a way that matches the standards and lifestyle that people in medical states are used to. Because
I want to say something. This is completely harmless chaos. This isn't chaos that's going to hurt anyone. This is just chaos that's going to inconvenience people like lawyers, legislatures, police officers, stuff like
prosecutors.
That. They're going to inconvenience you, yes, regardless. But this will inconvenience them, and I like that because I don't like them. That's basically what it is. And it also is the quickest route to releasing cannabis prisoners, because a lot of times if they can't make state charges stick, they'll charge them federally, vice versa. They stack charges. If this eliminates all the charges that a guy's being held over in jail, that immediately sets up a thing for an appeal, which one inconveniences the court that put this political prisoner there, but also conveniences him by automatically starting a new avenue for appeal from his lawyer. So this is good for victims, bad for victimizers.
Right. No, that is a fair outlook. You also worry about the abreaction in states that like to, you talk about the Republican position. Often the Republican position is the Democrats are doing that, I'm doing this. So you have states like Texas that are saying, well, fuck what Biden says. We ain't letting anybody else loose. If you're a cannabis,
well, they're going to freeze to death in the next couple of winters. So we're not going to have to worry about Texas.
So are the people they have in prison for weed.
Yeah, I know it sucks.
Because they're not going to let shit go. There's a very good chance that in some of those states, and I'm thinking Texas, I'm thinking like your Alabamas.
Oh, yeah.
That there could be a reaction of more of a crackdown, more people going to jail for weed.
I think you may be right, but I honestly don't know that those states have the resources to really do that as much as they did before. I think you're seeing progress in a lot of those courts, and you're seeing a lot of public pushbacks.
Less federal funding for that kind of shit.
Well, even that's. Did we talk about this? I don't remember where I talked about it. There was a story recently about a young lady who was imprisoned while she was pregnant. Yeah, we talked.
Yeah, we did that.
About it. She pissed hot or like admitted. We talked about, well, the reason that they let her out is not out of the goodness of their heart. It's because enough people got angry and called them. And eventually you start to realize that all of your friends and neighbors hate you because you're jailing pregnant women. You'll change your tune because you can't exist in a world like that. And so if you have enough public pressure, if something is heinous enough, you can get everyone to kind of add that soft pressure. You see what I'm saying?
That makes sense. I guess we could say that the official show stance is that it's good. It's not enough, but it's something. And hopefully, even if it is a callous midterm move, like one hopes that like you said, it carries on with more. And that's a really long-winded official show position. But I think if weed's going to end up legal somewhere, somehow, then this is a step that gets us there. And hopefully they don't drop it down the schedule. They deschedule instead of reschedule, like you said, because if not, we end up with problems and inconsistencies.
I think no matter what happens, I think that the federal versus state laws are always going to be really inconsistent on cannabis. But I like to think that the less hand the federal government has in it, the better initially, because what we've seen is state by state reform. And I worry that the way the federal government will do it is to reschedule in a way to hampering all the progress the states have made in the short term, and then consolidating all the regulatory framework in the federal sector instead of the state level. And if they do that, I worry that's going to make everything worse. So I hope that I hope that they completely deschedule it, because I think it'll make it harder if they reschedule it.
They need to, and I worry. This is a point that I kind of ambled at indirectly, but I should bring up directly. Like, Oklahoma is unique in that you can get some powerful ass edibles. I don't know what the top end or if there is one, but I can go to the fucking dispensary right now and get a chocolate bar that's like 3,000 milligrams. And not every state lets you do that. Some states it's a ridiculously small cap, like 100 milligrams. So let's say that they reschedule it, and God forbid they move it down to 2. If I see it scheduled, I'd like to see it down to a 5, but whatever. They move it down to 2, and all of a sudden some scientist that's never smoked weed in his life and has a panel of people who maybe smoked weed once in his little thing is now saying, well, I would say that the medically acceptable dose for this is 50 milligrams. And maybe if you get an extra license, you can get 100 milligrams. And then dudes like me that have, I won't say conditioned, I'm not a victim of this. I chose to eat this amount of edibles, but people who have become accustomed to a certain level of edibles are now fucking, okay, well, I've got to double up on the recommended dosage, and now the state tells me I can only buy so many a day, and I've got to use my wife's card to buy more because she doesn't eat edibles, and it creates problems. So, like, and this is just really a long-winded way of going to what you were saying, Dig. Like, letting the states figure it out themselves is the way to go, even though there's going to be attrition in terms of people getting fucked up and having to stay in jail longer in shitty states like Texas. Like, it's really the only way to do it.
I don't want to sound callous. I understand that people in Texas and these illegal states have a right to cannabis just like we do. However, we cannot limit our progress based on what regressive people choose to do. If you can't afford to leave your state, that's bad. I'm sorry. And if you're politically inactive, I don't want to hear it. If you don't go to protest or you don't vote, if you don't participate, I'm sorry, bro. I don't know what to tell you. Participate more. Maybe you can change it locally, but I don't want to hear it if you're not participating.
I mean,
and participating does not mean voting. You could have a podcast. You could be organizing. Do something in the civic political sphere. And if everyone chooses to do that, the world will be a better place. The anti-cannabis people have no problem mobilizing. We should be able to mobilize too.
No, yeah, absolutely we should. And we should be able to get results from that. And that's even like the shit you were talking about earlier. Like, people feel angry. People like you did get angry about the judicial system and shit in part. And I don't want to speak for you, but I feel like we share some anger here because we've seen over and over that using the system's methods doesn't work, or it's torturously slow if it does work. The cannabis thing being part of that. So people are frothed up to anger, and they want to see, because they keep seeing people get fucked over, they want to see these outcomes. So I'm with you.
But honestly, like,
I'm stoned.
It's both things. It's alternative or organizing counterculture stuff, but guys, it's also listen, I know a lot of y'all are creatives listening. I know you've got the time to go stand in line and vote. Go do it. And if you're in Oregon, you don't even have to stand in line. Go online, register, they'll mail you something, and you'll mail it back. You don't have to leave your house. What's coming up is going to be decided by the people that choose to participate from now moving forward to 20 years. Right. If you sit on your couch and you say politics is stupid and you don't participate, you're removing your small nudge of where it's going to go.
That's a fair take. Now, I would say two things to that, and I'm going to hit my derail button because it aligns with what you're saying here, and then I will no longer take the show in a bad direction. One, people have a right to not give a shit, and I think that, like, if I got arrested with a bag of weed when I was 20 and thought, fuck politics, my vote doesn't mean anything, because it was, a very, very one-dimensional take. Like, it would have sucked to think that there are a lot of people that, oh, well, you weren't engaged, so fuck off. So, like, I kind of feel for those people, and I get it, because people can't change their minds. My derail button is, and if you don't take anything else from the show besides the fact that weed is awesome, take this away. I read something that really blew my mind and really kind of furthered my old dude opinion that voting is important. The only way to beat gerrymandering is to vote. Gerrymandering is only effective in systems where the vote is close. If you fucking vote your ass off in the color you want, and it doesn't, I mean, obviously we know which party tends to use gerrymandering more, but if you're in an area where you're gerrymandered and you're pissed off about it and you think your vote doesn't count, your vote actually matters more, because the more votes you can blow that shit out, and gerrymandering suddenly is irrelevant. And that's my derail.
I will say also my rural folks who are in a sea of red or a sea of the opposite party, let's say, and you think your vote doesn't have an impact. There are a lot of 60-40 splits that you're never going to beat. But I have known a lot of small elections for small town councils that have been decided by one vote. And we're talking big differences here. Listen, one or like single digit votes, Evan. You're talking a town of 500. Your vote matters, motherfucker.
Yep.
And if there's a crazy lady who's trying to take over the school board and ban every book you loved as a kid, and you don't vote against her, what does that say about you?
That. Even that, I mean, that sucks. But even the listeners who would roll their eyes at that,
for your vote.
If you got kids and that lady comes and all of a sudden she's like, oh, well, this fucking reduced federal lunch program that we applied for is socialism. Fuck that. Maybe now, instead of paying 75 cents a day for your kids' lunch because the school subsidizes everybody, not just the underprivileged, maybe you're paying $3.50 a day. That shit adds up over a month. And those are just numbers I pulled out of my ass. But that kind of shit does happen beyond the political scope. So yes, vote.
You can have and the smaller, God, I cannot believe I'm going on a go vote midterms rant. But if you care, vote.
I feel like that's a message that's partisan and matters. Like bipartisan and matters. It doesn't matter. Like, you should vote.
Yeah. And hell, I mean, honestly, like, if you want to go the other way, I mean, anyway, we're not. I am out of Dr. Pepper, and it is time for me to go find some more.